what comes in the Scimech hone kit. First of all, you get the Kitayama stone, which is double-sided 4,000 and 1,000 grit. The white side is the 1,000 grit, the yellow is the 4,000 grit. You also get the DMT sharpener, which we'll use and demonstrate how to flatten your stone. You have the Megowan stone that we're going to use to create a slurry to give you a little better ride line. You have a mat to put your stone on, which peels off. Notice how we have the two different sections. Those peel off. It has a little bit of a stickiness that keeps your stone from sliding. You have a water bottle to spray it with, a microfiber cloth to wipe things off, and a plastic case that you can put your stone and your Megowan stone and your mat in this little case for storage between use. Now, one of the first steps you want to do in using your hone is to fill your water bottle. And I suggest that you put a drop of soap in your water bottle, not much. Use some type of maybe a cheap cleansing shampoo or a deodorant soap or something that doesn't have any cream to it, no grit to it. The type of hand soap you see here would not be appropriate. And it's just a drop. You don't want to make big soap suds. But this does work as a surfactant, and it keeps your stone wetter when you're using this water. Your water stone will be dished out. Even with it brand new, it may not be perfectly flat. So one of the first steps when you take it out of the box is to flatten your water stone, and that's with a DMT stone. We'll flatten it each day and between every 6 to 12 sharpenings throughout the day if needed. The first thing you want to do is to take a pencil and make some marks across the stone. This will allow you to see whether you've covered the whole stone when you're taking material off the surface with your DMT diamond stone. Once you've made your pencil marks, have your stone wet. It's best to do this under running water. And you're going to make figure eights up and down, covering the whole surface of your stone. You'll actually feel a little bit of a suction as you get your stone flatter, and you're going to see your pencil marks disappear. Sometimes turning the stone around in your hand will help you give a more even pressure on the entire stone. The idea is to clean your stone to get all the pencil marks off, but also to have it perfectly flat. If your stone's not perfectly flat, your ride line won't be perfectly flat, and you'll have inferior sharpening. Pay particular attention to the corners where they might be higher as they've dished out, as your stone dishes out in the center. I suggest you do the flattening with the 4,000 grit side first, so that any contamination that might be residue on your diamond stone will not have the coarser grit transferred to the finer grit and thus contaminate your stone. Now, after you've flattened the stone, go in and take off the sharp edges and the corners. This will do two things. One, it will keep the stone from scratching your blade. It also protects your stone from chips and is less apt to chip off. Now, once you finish with the stone, rinse off your diamond stone. Now, this has a nickel underbase to the diamond, so it will rust. So you want to leave it out to air dry. Don't put it back in the plastic container until it's dry. And then your water stone, you do not want to wipe it off with any paper towels, anything that's going to leave any lint behind, because this will affect the way it operates. So if you can, just let it drip as you take it back to your sharpening area, or hold a towel underneath it. But you shouldn't have any paper towels, napkins, Kleenexes touching it. Your microfiber cloth will be fine because it doesn't leave lint behind, but nothing that could leave some lint behind. These are the instructions on how to address the ride line on your shears with the Scimech hone kit. You do want to make sure that you have a shear that does have a hone line or a ride line on it that has a deep hollow. Some shears are not designed to create a ride line. We want to clean it off with alcohol, which is not included in the kit, and because we don't want to contaminate our stones with oil or debris or anything that will keep us from getting the perfect ride line. Always wipe your shears and your blades with the spine down towards your hand so as not to cut yourself. You can wipe your stone with a microfiber cloth. Do not wipe with a paper towel. It'll leave debris and grit and lint behind. Wet your stone well with water. Then create a slurry with a Megowan stone. This will create a shinier ride line for you, a smoother surface. It'll also remove any metal debris that has lodged in the water stone and keep it clean between your flattening procedures. And we're going to take our red Sharpie, which is not included in your kit, and mark the ride line area and the back of the blade as well. Only the red along the ride line area will be removed. The back should stay behind if we're doing this correctly. Put your pointer finger over the hole, and without any rocking or any twisting, bring the blade up and down in a smooth motion with a little bit more pressure coming toward you and a little lighter going away from you. The fingers on the outside are only a light pressure. Your pressure is over the pivot hole. Now we're going to look to see whether the red has been removed. And as you see, the red has been removed from the blade except for a small area right at the pivot. We're going to once again go on our stone. This time, we're going to keep our pressure at the pivot and then put a little bit more pressure at the area where we see the red mark. Let's check it again, and it's still there. Sometimes, especially when you're following behind someone else's sharpening or shears out of alignment, we can go at the corner of the stone and work that area, and then be sure that we blend the whole ride line in together afterwards. This can only be done if your pressure is over the pivot and that pivot area stays on the stone. Now let's check it and see if our red mark is gone. Do you see the red area and the ride has been removed all along the edge and around the back area? This is a correct ride line. So now you would remove the red with your alcohol again, and you can proceed to your next blade. The question is, when do you use the white side of your stone? The white side of the stone is a more coarser, it's 1000 grit. Anytime you're following behind someone else's sharpening that you need to remove more metal to reestablish a ride line, then you would want to use a more aggressive stone. This is the ride line we just created using the 4000 grit side of our Kitayama stone. You see how the ride line is consistent all the way down? It's a little bit wider at the tip. This just tells us that shear was slightly out of alignment, but as long as the ride line's there, that shear will function properly. Here is a shear we have not sharpened yet, and as you see, the ride line is missing in some areas. Looks like the previous sharpener took too much metal off, and now the ride line needs to be restored. This is a situation where we would use the 1000 grit, the white side of our Kitayama stone, which is more aggressive, and then finish with the 4000 yellow side. When through, you can clean off your stone, put it back into your case, and be ready for the next time you use it. Be sure your stone is covered over when you're doing your outside sharpening because you don't want any grit to fall on it. You would proceed at this point to continue your usual method of sharpening the outside of the blade on the shears.